Studio production is nothing but it is a process where the recording and production of a video takes place within the studio. If it is a live program, generally the transmission also takes place from the studio floor. But if it is a offline program, generally it can be edited, can be transmitted later. So studio production is nothing but where you are recording within the studio and also producing a video for the audience within the studio. It may be an offline program or it may be an online program. Advantages and the disadvantages of studio production. Studio production, if you take into account, generally everything is controlled. The light, the cameras, mics, everything is under the control. But if it is a field production, generally because of the weather conditions, etc., the lighting will not be in your control, and sometimes you may get a lot of noises because when you are shooting in a outdoor locations. Along with that, adjacent to the studio floor, where you also have a production control room where the actual recording is taking place. Most of the studio productions are multi-camera production. Then if it is a studio floor, you have a fixed lighting, but if it is a field production, generally the natural source of light what you have is sun. Sometimes the density of light may be low and sometimes the density of the light may be more. So depending on that, you have to adjust your cameras, and sometimes depending on the light, you may use different kinds of lighting filters to control the light which is falling where the shooting is taking place. The studio floor, if you take into account, if you don't have your own studio, generally you have to hire a studio for your production on day-to-day basis, or depending on the number of hours you are going to shoot within the studio floor. But if it is a field production, generally like ENG kind of production or EFP, etc., if you are covering any event, there is no need of paying any money. Sometimes the production crew, etc., also hired by the studio, and that is also included within the studio rent. But sometimes if the studio is not providing the production crew, etc., then the producer or the director have to hire the production personnel for their own production. The soundproof quality of your studio floor and the lighting facility what you have in the studio floor, that adds the quality to the production. Then if you compare the studio production, if you are shooting using this blue or green mat within the studio floor, you can change the background of the production. But you are shooting outdoor locations, etc., the background cannot be changed. The differences between the studio production and field production. The studio production is nothing but recording and production is taking place within the studio. Field production is when you are shooting in a outdoor locations or in a field, and that is called field production. So studio production takes place within the studio and field productions takes place within the outdoor location or in a studio productions, the lighting, audio and cameras can be controlled, but if field production, because it is taking place outside the studio, the lighting and also the audio will not be in your control. If you take studio production, you have to pay for the studio floor and also the production crew you have to pay. But if it is a field production, generally you are not paying for the studio floor, but you have to carry your equipment and you have to hire the production personnel and also the talent. Everyone along with the equipment has to reach the location where the shooting is taking place. So that means the transportation charges, hiring the equipment, etc., you have to pay. Then if it is a studio production, the weather conditions will not interrupt your program. So the recording, because it is taking place within the studio, nothing can be interrupted. But if you are shooting in an outdoor location, etc., different weather conditions may interrupt your program. For example, sudden rains, humidity, heat, etc., anything may interrupt the program. If you are shooting in a studio floor, generally it requires coordination among the persons who are there helping in producing a program. So the production crew, talent, and also the producer and director, and also the technical persons who are handling the different kinds of equipment like a vision mixer, audio mixer, etc. There should be a coordination between all these persons. But when you are going and shooting outdoor locations, etc., along with the production crew, talent, and the producer, director, etc., technically who are operating the cameras, other equipment, etc. Along with that, you need to have cooperation from the persons who are around the shooting. For example, you are shooting on the road, etc. The persons who are passing, or the persons who are traveling on the road, or the persons who are nearby, etc. Everyone needs to cooperate for your production. Otherwise, you cannot shoot what is required for you. Then studio productions are generally multi-camera productions when you compare with the field production. So field productions can be a single camera productions, and they can also be a multi-camera productions. Like a ENG, electronic news gathering, which uses generally a single camera. But if it is a sports match, etc., then that is a multi-camera field-based production. So there also you may not be having a production control room, but a makeshift production control room can be used for the electronic field productions. But if it is a studio based kind of production, generally along with the studio floor, you will have a production control room where the final recording takes place. Field production is more time consuming than the studio production. Studio production, because everything is in place, the talent, as soon as they arrive, the production may takes place. But if it is a field production, the talent has to arrive the location, the production personnel has to be there along with the producer and the director, technical persons have to be there, and the equipment has to be placed where the event is going to take place, which means it is more time consuming when you compare with the studio productions. If you see the budget, studio production only you are paying for the studio floor, but if it is a outdoor field production, etc., you also need to pay for the traveling expenses. And if the shooting is going to take place maybe in the early morning of the next day, etc., then today itself the camera persons, the crew members, producer, director, along with the talent also has to arrive the location. So the lodging facilities also to be provided by the director. So both the studio productions and field productions have their own advantages and disadvantages. If you see the production process of studio production, generally the first one is studio preparation, second is rehearsals, third one is final production or final recording, after that editing. Sometimes the studio productions, if you take into account, that can be recorded in live and it can also be transmitted in live, but sometimes it can be an offline production like any game show or any reality show, etc. The production takes place at one point of time, later it is edited and that can be transmitted later for the audience. So studio productions can be online productions and also it can be a offline production. So if you see the production process, the first one is studio preparation, second one is rehearsals before actual shooting, and final production is where the actual shooting takes place and it is been recorded. Then editing is post-production stage where if it is an offline program, the editing takes place after the shooting. But if it is a online program, generally the editing takes place simultaneously along with the recording. So studio preparation, if you see the studio preparation, first thing is the studio set. So depending on your requirement, suppose if you are shooting using a green mat or maybe blue mat, etc., there is no need of having a set for your production. But generally, if it is a reality show or a game show, etc., then you need a set. So the set is generally designed by a set designer based on the requirements of the producer. So depending on the kind of program you are making, the producer is the one who asks the set designer to prepare a set for his production. So the set is something which provides a physical environment within the studio where the shooting actually takes place. So the set designer is also the one who prepares a floor plan for the final production. So floor plan is nothing but It gives you a detailed description about what kind of set is there, where the exit is there, where the entry point is there, where the cameras are to be placed, where the microphones are to be placed, where the talent are to be performed, along with that, where the technical persons who are handling the equipment are to be there, etc. So it gives you essential guidelines how a studio floor can be utilized by the different persons. Then camera cards. Generally, camera cards are fixed along with the camera. Generally, it can be seen by the camera persons that will have the description of the shot, the sequence, and also it will have the camera position where the camera has to be placed, which action the camera has to record for the final production, then the camera angle, etc. Everything is being written in the camera card. So the camera cards will help the camera person to record the right kind of shot based on the directions of the producer. So if you are using different kinds of cameras, etc., then all those cameras will have their own camera card that is being fixed with the camera and that can be seen by the camera person. Then initial production planning meeting is being convened by the producer or the director of the program. So he may be calling persons from different units like lighting, camera, mics, set designers, etc. All of them are called for this initial meeting of the production. So in which the producer is the one who is distributing the script of the program. Then he will also give the floor plan, which is designed by the set designer. So that is initial meeting, which has been convened by the producer. That is called first or initial production meeting or the conference. Then graphics. So the producer may give what kind of graphics he needed for his final production. Then based on the instructions of the producer, a graphic designer or graphic engineer may produce the graphics which are required for the final production. Different graphics which can be used in the beginning or middle and also end of the show. So all those graphics which are required for the production are designed by the graphic engineer or graphic designer. Then photo, film and animation. Suppose if your program requires a photo or a film or any animation kind of things, etc. All those things which are required for the production are being kept ready. If they don't have, they are borrowed from the persons. Then costumes and makeup. Generally, depending on your production, the costume designer is the one who is designing costumes for the talent, and makeup artist is the one who is applying makeup for the persons. Depending on the kind of program you are making, depending on the character of the person, the talent, etc., then different kinds of makeup may be applied for the persons. Along with that, different kinds of costumes may be designed for the different persons who are acting in a film or maybe who are the one who are before the camera. Sound effects and music. Each producer or the director, when making a show or making a program, etc., they will need to have their own music. Producer may approach the music composers, then they may give their original music for the show. So in the beginning, middle and end, during the show, the background music, etc., is being produced by the music composers, then that is being kept ready for the use during the show. If it is live, if it is not live, generally that can be mixed during the editing stage of a particular program. Then film video inputs. Whenever you need a portion of a film or maybe a clipping of a film or clipping of a program, etc., everything is kept ready for the final use during the production. If it is live, generally that can be incorporated in live. Otherwise, it can be used for the final editing of the program. Then casting and direction, the producer and the director is in charge of selecting the talent for the particular show. So there may be a auditioning which is conducted by the producer or the director before the actual shooting. They may finalize the list, and after that, the persons who are going to act or those persons who are going to be there before the screen are being given a shooting schedule, and based on that they will arrive on the shooting day and there will be a shooting takes place. So it is the responsibility of the director or the producer to select the talent for his program or any production. After that, a technical planning meeting is convened. So here in the technical planning meeting, it is a second meeting which is convened by the producer. So all these departments who are involved in the production gives their reports. It may be a oral report or maybe a written report. Then if there are any problems, those problems are also sorted out in this technical planning meeting. So here the producer announces the final schedule of the program. Then he also maybe decides the final date of recording of the program. Whatever maybe the instructions are to be given for the technical persons, written notes and instructions by the producer are distributed in this meeting. So this meeting is attended by the camera persons, lighting operators, audio engineers, visual mixer operator, audio mixer operator, lighting director, lighting technicians, all those technical persons who are going to handle different kinds of equipment, etc., are called for this meeting so that they will have an idea about the program. At the end of the studio preparation, the studio is floor is booked in this stage, and set construction is being done in a day or 2 days before, and the lighting whatever is required for the production is being arranged 2-3 hours before the actual shooting takes place, and script copies are distributed among all the persons who are involved in the production, right from the producer, director to till a technician who is operating technically a equipment. So everyone is being distributed with the script. Then after that, the rehearsals takes place. Generally, if you want to shoot in a studio floor, generally it requires a lot of money because you have to pay for the studio rent itself. To avoid paying the studio rent, etc., generally the rehearsals are before the shooting are conducted in a place wherever is convenient for the producer and the director. Rehearsing means the talent what they have to perform during the recording, etc., that is being rehearsed for the actual shooting. That is rehearsing stage. That is the second stage of the studio production. First rehearsal is nothing but the script reading session. So generally the talent are given the script, then the talent has to read the script. It is the initial rehearsing of the program. After that, a dry run is being conducted by the producer. Dry run is nothing but without placing the actual equipment, the talent perform their action. After this dry run, the producer or the director will come to know what kind of shots he has to compose for the final production. Then after the dry run, generally a walkthrough session is also being conducted by the producer. The whole event can be rehearsed by the talent, or sometimes the parts of the event also can be rehearsed by the talent. Camera rehearsals. Before the camera, talent may deliver their dialogues. Can be conducted in two methods. One is uninterrupted camera rehearsals. Second one is interrupted camera rehearsals. Stop and resume kind of rehearsals. So in uninterrupted rehearsals and shooting, etc., even if a mistake occurs from the beginning of the from the beginning itself. The talent may perform their action, they may deliver the dialogues. But if it is a other method of rehearsal, camera rehearsal is when a mistake occurs, from the beginning they will not rehearse. But from the mistake where it has happened, from there they may again do the rehearsals. It will become easy for them to deliver their dialogue. Then after that, a final meeting is being convened by the producer or the director a day or two before the actual final shooting takes place. Here he will see that everything is under control for the final production. The cameras are hired, production crew are hired, the talent are hired, and if the transportation facilities are being provided for the talent, and the studio floor is being taken into account, and advance is paid for the studio floor, and the studio is fixed for the final recording, etc. So before the actual shooting takes place on the studio floor, everything is being kept ready. The final schedule of the program is being distributed among the members. Along with that, a script is also being distributed among all the production crew and the talent before the actual shoot begins. After that, the final recording takes place. During the final recording day, generally the producer or the director arrives the shooting spot or the studio. Along with that, the production team, then the cameras, mics, properties, monitors, everything is placed before the shooting begins. Then all the technical crew is reported here. Then the lighting operators will take care of the lighting which is required within the studio floor. Along with that, the audio engineer will be there. The audio engineer is responsible for the audio which is going to be recorded for the final production. Then the final program is going to be recorded. Along with that, the talent who are performing are going to be presenting their action. They are also arrive before the actual shoot takes place. They have to change their costumes, and also the makeup has to be applied for the talent. So for the purpose of that, they arrive before the shooting takes place. After that, the studio rehearsals are being conducted by the producer. A quick rehearsal before actual shoot takes place. So here during the shoot, within the studio, the performers or the talent are going to act or perform their act. Here, the studio rehearsals are conducted by the producer. It is a quick rehearsal within the studio. Here, the individual shots are being decided by the producer, and the camera persons are given instructions for each shot, the size, angle of the camera, and the movement of the talent, and also along with that, the camera persons where they have to move their cameras, etc. So that the studio rehearsals are conducted. After that, a walkthrough session is conducted or run through session is conducted. It can be an uninterrupted kind of session, camera rehearsals, or it can be a interrupted kind of camera rehearsals. Then after that, a full camera rehearsal is being conducted after a 10-minute break from the rehearsal. So full camera rehearsal is being conducted. After that, the final recording takes place. So in full camera rehearsals, the cameras are fixed. The talent on the stage will perform their action. Then the camera persons may move their cameras to capture the right kind of shot which is required for the final production based on the camera card. Then that is going to be recorded by the persons who are sitting in the production control room. With the help of the vision mixer, different shots are being recorded for the final production. So if it is a online program, generally simultaneously the editing is takes place. But if it is an offline program, the shots from the different cameras are recorded in a VTR along with the audio. So here audio console is getting the audio from different channels, which means from different mics. Output is connected to the audio console, and here the audio engineer is the one who is selecting audio for the final production, and that is being recorded along with the visuals which are being selected using the vision itself, and that is going to be edited in the post production stage if it is not a live program. If you see the editing stage, that is the final stage of any studio production. So in this editing stage, so if it is a offline based studio production, the editing takes place after the recording of the event. So here in the editing stage, you have to assemble all your shots which are recorded on the tape depending on the final requirement. So whatever may be your final production, everything is arranged in a sequence so that it can be transmitted for the audience.